you just never know who's going to show up here on the Nick Club Wrestling Happy Hour. So we're going to bring him in, ladies and gentlemen, legendary WWE referee, Mr. Jimmy Korderas. Jimmy, welcome in.
Well, thanks for having me. If you're going to call me legendary, I'll call in every time.
Well, it is a pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate this. This is a lot of fun. I was listening a little bit to your predictions and stuff like that. Nice little banter back and forth. I like it. I like that you don't always agree too. That's a good thing.
We joke. I joke with our family and friends. I say at least every week, no one can ever question if I talk to my wife. That at least for 2 hours every week, you know that we're talking. We're talking,
and we're disagreeing on everything.
Well, sounds about right. I've been married for over 25 years. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Anything in particular that kind of stood out actually as you were listening?
I thought the interesting conversation was the last one you're having with Io and Rhea, because you both make great points. For me, Rhea Ripley right now is bulletproof. Mm-hmm. There's nothing you can do to make her a bigger star. I mean, yes, she can win the title and carry that, but sometimes the title makes a person and the person makes a title. Rhea is already a made person, so she doesn't need that title, and I think a loss here would hurt Io more than a loss would hurt Rhea, if that makes any kind of sense. So I think a nice little win for Io, and at the end, Rhea kind of gives the old respect, raises her hand, and gives her the ring, and that way you have another made person.
That makes perfect sense.
That's what I want.
Nikki?
Oh, so we're starting with me already. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, because it drove me bananas. It was a couple, I guess, weeks ago at this point. The match between Gunther and Jay on Raw, and Gunther choked out Jay. Mm-hmm. And then I don't know what this new thing is now. Like the ref kind of just flopped like a fish instead of the whole like Daphne did on Night of Champions when she raised Sammy's hand. So I just kind of want your opinion on like how when you're doing a knockout or a choke out, or like how would you handle that, and maybe other tropes that maybe referees are doing or not doing now, because that flop like a fish drove me bananas.
And this is for Nikki.
No, I know exactly what you mean. Because it changes. If it was consistent, then I'd be okay with it. Raising the hand 3 times used to be the way they did it for dramatic purposes. The babyface is in a sleeper hold, and you raise the hand, he drops 1, he drops 2, you lift it for the 3rd one, you hold it just a little bit longer for that dramatic pause, you drop it, and he go, oh, no, not quite today. That's kind of changed over the years, and it kind of morphed into this maybe check once and kind of make it almost like MMA. They want to give it a more realistic feel. But lately, it seems to be flopping back and forth. Sometimes they'll do the 3 hand raise kind of thing, and sometimes they will check and see, and if it drops once, then they call for the bell. And I've even seen where they don't even check the hand, and they look kind of like into the eyes of their opponent, and they go, okay, he's out, call for the bell. I just wish they'd pick a lane and stay in it. That's all, instead of changing lanes so many times.
Yeah. And the flopping fish really bothered me.
It kind of brings up the question as you talk about refereeing, because everyone has their own style and things of that nature. What do you feel is a necessity in the role, right? And how do you feel like you support the role, and like the referee should support the match in general? Because you have referees like Aubrey who do things a little bit more eccentric, right, than others, and you have some that are a little more reserved. What is your take on all that?
The role of a referee is first and foremost to be there to help the talent tell their story without being a part of the story, unless something calls for a bump or something like that. Otherwise, you're invisible until you need to be seen. And you're also the conduit that helps communicate between the talent, because sometimes someone will tell you, hey, tell them this, and now you have to find a creative way to relay that message to the other person without making it that you're walking over and going, hey, he wants you to pick him up and shoot him in the ropes and clothesline. You know what I mean? So it has to look like it's in the process of doing your job of enforcing rules or checking on someone or something like that. What I find with a lot, I don't want to say a lot, but there are some referees today that I pay attention to because it's my thing. I gotta pay attention to the referees. I see, in my opinion, it appears, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, but it appears to me that a lot of them are intentionally trying to get noticed on camera.
Mhm.
And that is not what you're supposed, that is not what the job description is. It's not about you. Like I tell people, nobody ever bought a ticket to see me referee a match. The only people that came to watch me was my family and friends, and that's because I got them comps. They're still not paying. So I just wish that referees would look more authoritative. You talk about floppy fish. I've seen a lot of referees act that way, not just with checking someone's arms, but with certain ways they bump and that kind of thing. I just want the referees to look authoritative, not over the top, like you were saying, Nick. And I just, it's for me, it's terrible because I'll notice little things, and it's probably like, if I go back and look at some old matches of mine, it'll probably be stuff that I probably did too. You know what I mean? Nobody's perfect. Like I could sit here in Monday Morning Quarterback all day long and just say, oh, you know what? I noticed something there. They shouldn't have done that. Maybe they should have done this instead. And if anybody were to ask me for advice, I would present it that way. I would say, look, I noticed this. Maybe you want to try and do it this way instead of saying, you're doing it all wrong, dude. Because nobody, especially in today's day and age, nobody listens to you when you say that. They're kind of give you the, yeah, right, okay, you old farts, go back and scream at the clouds and tell people to get off your lawn. But that's basically it. And a lot of the times, a lot of the issues with the referees, as far as rule enforcement goes, that falls back on the talent as much and the office as much as anybody else, because they're not protecting their referees like they should. Like if you take someone like got the picture right there, someone like my old pal, the late great, rest in peace, Eddie Guerrero. Everything he did, even through his lie, cheat, and steal era, he protected the referees so that they didn't look stupid. And when he was a heel, the heat would go to him. Mm-hmm. Instead of, if the heat goes to the referee, then that's a no-no.
Right. Well, yeah, you're right. It's all about, like, again, in theory, like the suspension of disbelief, right? You're in, they're trying to win. You shouldn't make him look out to be a fool. He's doing a job. And if he sees it right in front of you, like you blading or whatever, or hitting someone with a weapon, you should be disqualified.
Right. And then we had that edict back by our old boss who said that, hey, if they don't kick out, you count 3. If they don't make it back in the ring, you count them out. Treat it like a shoot. Now, you can kind of play with the numbers a little bit, especially on countouts. You don't have to it's not 10 seconds, it's a 10 count. So you can make a 10 count last 20 seconds by being creative. It doesn't have to, you don't have to rush everybody, but at the same time, at some point, how hard is it if you're fighting on the outside for one guy just to roll in at 8 or 9? And if it's the heel, look at the referee, flip him off, and roll back out. That resets the count. And you can scream at him for 5-10 seconds saying, hey, come on, get back in the ring, whatever you want. You know what I mean? And then you can start a count. It's not hard. And then you can stay out there for 2-3 minutes like some of them do nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's times where I'm just like, when, and now what is in Ring of Honor has a 20 count? Which
yes.
I'm like, why? Yeah. Why even?
Well, they took that from Japan, I believe. They adopted that from Japan, which has if I'm not mistaken, I'm sure somebody can correct me in the chat, but if I'm not mistaken, it was a 20 count outside the ring, and there was a 10 count for tags. Like you had a 10 count to make the switch on a tag, whereas in North America is a 10 count and a 5 count on tags.
Yeah, it's crazy. I guess talking about obviously wrestling's evolved so much in the last 5 years. Then, what is your opinion, I guess, of the product today and how it's changed over the last 5, 10 plus years, and what do you feel like, I guess, gets over talent nowadays, and what are the main differences?
Where do I begin? I know a lot of the style today is very fast paced. Try to get as much stuff in the time you're allotted, and in some cases, I've seen, sometimes they slow it down a little bit and they tell more stories in the match, which is the style I prefer. I mean, don't get me wrong. I could sit back and watch a spot fest. Here we go, spot fest, and have fun with it, because that's what it's intended to be. But at the same time, I'm more of a story being told in the ring kind of guy, and I've noticed a lot of the evolution of wrestling today. To me, they have thrown away a book full of finishes and use them as transition moves and false finishes, and that irks me a lot. Again, here I go screaming at clouds. I mean, like, I remember one show, and I'm not going to point out the company, but in their one pay-per-view, which lasted, I don't know, 6 hours or whatever the heck it was, there were 11 variations of a pile driver. Everything from in the ring, on the floor, off the second rope, whatever the case may be. And none of them, there was no pinfalls that happened out of any of them. They were all either somebody did the move and bragged about it, gloating to the crowd, or they covered and they kicked out.
Yeah.
Now, I understand the evolution of wrestling, but I don't understand the evolution of the human cranium to be able to withstand that, and I know I'm going to get heat for this too. Take the Samoans out of the equation, because forever, if you go back to Alpha and Sika in those days, that part of their gimmick was they had really hard heads. That was, the stereotype that they did back then. But some of the moves today, I mean, like, they're doing it off the apron onto stairs, and 30 seconds later, the guy's up. Let me ask you a question. If somebody actually dropped you legit on your head on a set of steel stairs, you think you're getting up in 30 seconds and going on offense?
Yeah,
exactly.
The hardest part of the ring.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. The hardest part of the ring, the apron. When they do those Canadian destroyers and stuff like that on there, I cringe, because the risk factor has been elevated, and elevating risk is not necessarily evolution.
Yeah.
If I'm babbling here, sorry.
No,
but if I like to explain it this way. It's like the wheel. When it was invented, it was made of stone, because that was the material they had in the day. Then it evolved. It was made of wood because it was lighter and easier to transport things with a lighter. And then it became rubber. Then it became vulcanized rubber, and run flat tires, and all season tires, and winter tires, and all weather tires, and all variations of the rubber. But at the end of the day, the wheel is round. And I think they're losing focus on the foundation of wrestling, and trying to, instead of round, they're trying to, old proverbial square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
I mean, you can adopt elements of new school with elements of old school and make it work. Yeah. And part of the problem too is nobody's doing house shows anymore. House shows is where you went and you tried stuff. You did it in front of a live crowd, because they're your biggest barometer. You know what I mean? Forget the internet. I'm sorry, but the internet, there's going to be people on there who are going to give you your flowers for 5 minutes. It's going to go viral, and that's about it.
Right.
See, when you do it in front of a live crowd and you get that reaction and you see what works, and you go, okay, this is working. What we did today worked. What we did yesterday didn't work. We're going to take this and do it on TV and hopefully get the same.
Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. And yeah, like I was thinking, Nikki and I were talking about Roxanne Perez, right? That she has that pop rocks finisher, which is basically what is it? Like kind of sunset flip, essentially. But it's a weird, and she uses that, which especially on bigger women, it doesn't hit right. But she does a springboard moonsault, like that she does from like one corner to the other, onto her opponent, and it looks fantastic. And she just does that mid-match as just a signature to throw in.
It's a transition move.
Yeah, and it's like, why is this not your finishing move? This is perfect for you. And there's so many things like I know we've talked a lot about WWE on this show, but like AEW does that a lot. There's so many false finishes in the matches where you're like, this match should have been over 10 minutes ago. You've seen 10 pile drivers or 10 finishers from the same person.
3 crossroads.
Right. Yeah. See, something like that should be saved for a PLE I'm not a big fan of it, but again, if you're going to do it on a big stage, whether a big event. If you're seeing it on TV every week, it's kind of like now everybody likes to swear on television. Like you get to hear that, which I don't have a problem with, as long as it's used very sparingly, because I don't know what the language parameters are here for you.
Oh, no. We're at our bar. We're cursing.
Okay. Now, if everybody's calling each other bitch,
yes.
Why do I care now? Okay.
Yeah.
You're a bitch. She's a bitch. Everyone's a bitch now. You know what I mean? Like it's like a song. It's like a game. Things used sparingly mean more. Whether it's language, whether it's the use of objects, whether it's the use of blood. Everything used sparingly, when it happens, means so much more. And then you see it almost every week, it loses its cachet.
Yeah. The joke on our podcast is like somewhere Jon Moxley's bleeding right now.
Probably not wrong. I'm just wondering if Renee has to clean up after him at home all the time.
Okay. They probably have stock in Band-Aids.
Yeah.
Band-Aids and baby wipes.
Well, there's a new ad campaign. I'm stuck on Moxley because Moxley's stuck on me, or something like that.
There you go. But in the Slim Jim table.
Oh God!
Fireball ladders.
Oh. No. Okay.
Yeah. The commercialization of everything. Jimmy, I like doing this. You've been in. We talked about ladders. You've been in a few of those yourself. But I like pulling stuff. We had on one of your comrades a few weeks ago. But I thought it was fun, like matches that you've been in, and this is a very again, really put together a list. But anything particular? Usually we like to ask, what your favorite match is, things like that. But I figure I threw a couple up here. Anything in particular that stands out memories-wise or moments-wise for you?
Obviously, the one right on top with Edge versus Undertaker, WrestleMania 24, because that's the main event of WrestleMania, and it means just as much to us as referees to be able to be trusted to be put in that position as much as it does to the talent involved, and especially considering in that situation, I wasn't originally scheduled to officiate that match. I had other duties. There was a ladder match on that show too. I was kind of designated almost the unofficial ladder match referee. But a couple of weeks before, like it was 2 weeks before the event, Edge comes up to me in the locker room. He says, hey, Jimmy, can I talk to you for a second? I said, yeah, sure. What's up? He says, Taker and I have been talking. We want you to referee our match at WrestleMania. I went, oh, really? He says, yeah. We'd like to have you there. I said, cool, but I got assigned to a different match. So he says, don't worry, we can take care of that. Okay, then, whatever you guys want. Like, you know what I mean? So I wore it as a badge of honor that they requested, but at the same time, I was a little more nervous for that match than any other because, it is the main event and you want to make sure that you're there for them. Make sure you don't mess things up. So, like I said before, nobody's perfect, so you never know what's going to happen. But once the butterflies are gone and you kind of dive into your job, that kind of goes away for a little while, at least, anyways. And I see on here you've got speaking of ladder matches, TLC 2 at WrestleMania 17. Wow, like you talk about legendary matches. That's here's the thing: that match is kind of like the Mick Foley Hell in the Cell situation. Ever since Mick Foley went off the top of that cage and went through and almost like, I don't know, well, he did pretty much damage his entire body. But Since then, everybody's been trying to either recreate or top that moment, and it just doesn't have the same feel to it. The challenge now after WrestleMania 17 with Edge and Christian, the Hardys, and the Dudley Boys is people's expectations have been so elevated by that match. Guys are trying too hard to kind of replicate what they saw. Not exactly move for move, but what I'm saying is the excitement. If they take that out of their mind and just focus on them, like we're going to see one coming up. If I'm not mistaken, Slammiversary this year has one with Nemeths and the Hardys and a couple other teams. I think they are going to deliver because the Hardys are in there and can probably tell them, "Hey guys, don't think about what happened there. Think about what we're doing here because I know we can deliver." And there's a couple on there. Like actually, there's one on there that wasn't on there. SummerSlam 2002 with Kurt Angle and Rey Mysterio, which was the opening match, and a lot of people said that was probably the best opening match for a SummerSlam in SummerSlam history, which is kind of cool to hear. You know what I mean? It's a nice little thing. But the other ones there, the 6-pack challenge and Unforgiven 99, when I got my butt whipped by the other referees. That was fun, except I still owe Mike Chioda a few receipts from that one.
Yeah, I mean, just the star-studded, affairs that you've been around and everything there. I guess, was there a particular method or just happenstance with, you've been involved in so many ladder matches. What's the difference in being part of that match versus, others? Because from what I recall, and someone's going to probably correct me if I'm wrong, but in chat, but my understanding is that the Ed and Christian Hardy match was the first ever multi-person ladder match.
I believe that. I believe you're right. And the first time they had their match, we had the referee assignments, and we weren't sure how to handle this because in a ladder match, obviously, we're on the outside of the ring. It's the hard thing when matches like that is I talked about communicating to the talent, whether it's a signal from Gorilla telling them, how much time they have left or whatever the case may be. Or them asking us, are they okay going through 4 tables off a ladder? That kind of stuff. It's harder to communicate to them, but at the same time, priority number 1 is to make sure after you see something nasty, one of those nasty spills or bumps, make sure they're okay and to check on them first and foremost. And I know some guys would get upset that they say, you don't have to come over right away. And I'm like, well, you fell off a tall ladder in the middle of the ring through 4 tables. I want to kind of check on you and make sure you're okay.
Exactly. Yeah. It's always safety first.
Well, you said you kind of got stuck with all the ladder matches. Is there just like sometimes you're doing like all the hardcore matches, or sometimes you're like, oh, can we just have a one-on-one exhibition match? Or do you love like having all those specialty matches?
I didn't mind the specialty matches. They were kind of fun. I mean, you're fighting all over the building. I remember one where it was actually a women's hardcore match, and I want to say it was, who was it? I think Victoria was involved in it or something. And they fought into the concourse, and of course I'm following them. And the big rib is I have to carry the title belt with me the entire time. And then they went into the ladies' room, and they fought in there, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going in there. I think that was a rib on me.
I think I remember that spot now. Yes, it's such a unique.
Yeah, I think that was a rib on me to see how I'd react. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, I'm kind of not going in there, and the cameraman's not going in either. So I think I'll wait here until they come out.
would have been great if they came out, or whoever the heel was like, I had a 3 count in there.
Yeah, that would have been fun. That would make sense too. Jeez. Where were you? Why weren't you in the meeting?
Well, it's notorious on this show that production meetings are
that I don't go to any production meeting. I just show up.
Hey, I know a place where you can work. Never mind. Sorry, I can't help myself sometimes,
Well, you've come to the right place.
I'm like, you're right at home at the bar.
Well, Jimmy, we have someone who wants to ask you a couple questions about a match that wasn't on this list. So we're going to bring him in. He's our friend from overseas, from Scotland. Reese. We'll bring him in. Reese.
Oh.
Senor Korderas.
Oh, I thought you said Scotland. He's from Spain, man.
No, I'm just multilingual. What's up, folks? How are you all?
Good. How are you?
How are you, Reese?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well.
Cool.
I've actually got a show soon myself, a second show of the day actually. So I'll be live again very shortly. But Jimmy, I actually have a very interesting question for you, and it's one I don't think many are going to think about. This is probably because my brain's just so fast. WrestleMania 4 is your first WrestleMania event, and you get knocked out by Jimmy Hart. Who proposed by the megaphone? Obviously, you get like the megaphone knockout by Jimmy Hart. My question is, who proposed that idea? And two, the enjoyment of working with someone like Jimmy Hart, because that's the Honky Tonk Man versus Brutus the Barber Beefcake for the Intercontinental title. So it is arguably one of the best WrestleManias of all time. So I just wanted to ask like your thoughts on that as a memory, and just your thoughts on working with someone like Jimmy Hart, who I still think Bobby Heenan is the greatest manager of all time, God rest his soul. But like Jimmy Hart is definitely up there for who he did manage. Mm-hmm. But like just in general, like your thoughts on working with Jimmy Hart and that WrestleMania, obviously, because that was one of the few where it was a back-to-back, the only time until next year, of course, where you had a back-to-back Mania in the same venue. So that was my question, actually, and a pleasure to meet you.
No, pleasure to meet you, and thanks for the question. I'm going to start in reverse. Actually, Jimmy Hart was a pleasure to work with. I loved Jimmy. He was so upbeat. Everything was like, you running around, hey, baby, what's up? Like he was in that mood all the time, 24/7. That was Jimmy. The guy you saw on TV was Jimmy, just turned up maybe a notch or two, but still, he had that exuberant energy. He was a lot of fun to work with. As far as the megaphone and knocking... it wasn't Jimmy that knocked me out. I knocked myself out. And, Jimmy apologized for, like probably about 5 years ago, I ran into him at a signing, and he kept apologizing even then. And I kept telling him, Jimmy, I told you back then, it wasn't you, it was me. The whole thing was, when they did the meeting, it was proposed, they said, we want to bump you. What's a good way to bump you to take you out of the match? He said, well, if we hit him with the megaphone, and that would be fine. And they said, you okay? Yeah, whatever you want to do. That's cool. He says, yeah, just face plant. And when the time's right, you can come too. Apparently I didn't come too. So when Jimmy hit me with the megaphone, it was fine. I felt it on the shoulder, but no big deal. And as I went down to face plant, I put my hands down so not to land on my face, but my hand shot out. When I landed, I just slipped on the canvas, and my chin hit the sweet spot. And it was boom, lights out. And that was the last I remembered. That was it. And then WrestleMania. yeah. And then after they showed the footage back to me, they were helping me out. Some of the other referees were helping me out. And if somebody goes back and watches it, they've got me draped on their shoulders, and somebody's got me hooked by the belt and dragging me, lifting me from my belt up. And you can see my feet dragging behind me. And they got hot at me afterwards saying, why did you sandbag us? And I was like, pardon me? I said, yeah, you dead weighted us out there. You were sandbagging us. Why were you ribbing us? And all this kind of stuff. I said, I really don't know what you're talking about. He says, they're like, yeah, don't mess with me. I'm saying, I'm serious. I don't know what you're talking about. Then they started looking at each other going, maybe he was not silly.
Yeah. He's not working us.
Yeah. Guess what, guys? I'm not a ribber. Unless you're Tony Chimmel, I don't rib.
Like I'm not that good a seller.
Yes. I know. I love when they say a great sell. I wasn't selling. That really did hurt.
So, Jimmy, we got another regular who wants to chime in. Got a question here. He's an original of this show from day one, so we're gonna bring him in. He's our friend Steven.
Good evening, sir. Jimmy, thank you for joining us tonight. This has been great.
Well, thanks, Steven. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. My question is about now. My memory can be a little hazy. I've watched an awful lot of wrestling in my time. You refereed a Ring of Honor match where the crowd was chanting in great appreciation for you. I remember I have this memory of reading about that. I don't think I ever saw the video. In fact, I tried to look it up again before the show today, knowing you were coming on, hearing that you might come on, and I still couldn't find it. What is your memory of that card of that day?
Oh, it was Border Wars, ROH Border Wars here in Toronto. I want to say it was 2012, if I'm not mistaken. And I was planning to go down to the show. I wanted to watch the show. And I get a call from Kevin Kelly, who was working with ROH at the time. And he says, Jimmy, are you coming down to the show? And I said, yeah, if cool with you guys, I'd love to come down and visit and check out the show. He says, how do you feel about working a match? I said, I don't know. Is that cool? If you guys are cool with it, I'm cool with it. So yeah, we'd like to referee Lance Storm versus Mike Bennett. I said, oh, that should be a good match. Great. I'd love to do that. So I got down there, and everyone there treated me really, really nice. It was a nice atmosphere. Saw a lot of old friends there because there were a lot of guys that I worked with in WWE on the card as well. The referees there, Paul Turner, and everybody were very, very nice. So it came time for my match, and when I went out to the ring, I guess it was a surprise to everybody to see me, and everybody knew that I was like, I'm a hometown guy, so I'm from Toronto. So they kind of gave me a bit of an ovation and a little bit of a chant, and they say there's no crying in wrestling. I got choked up, and it was like I had to fight them back. You know what I mean? It was like, and then we had the match, and afterwards, Lance looked at me and goes, you okay? I said, yeah, I'm good. And he gave me a big hug in the middle of the ring. And I'm like, this is cool. This is the coolest thing ever.
That's awesome.
That's incredible. Yeah, you definitely, I think that's the only time I've ever heard of such a chant for a referee. And, certainly well deserved, I'm sure. And thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for bringing it up too. It's one of those memories that I've been blessed to have a lot of memories throughout my career. And, being with the WWE for over 20, almost 25 years there, obviously the majority of them are going to be there, but there's some memories outside of WWE that are just as big and just as, have a special place for me.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, gosh. Nikki?
I know like Nick showed a list of like kind of bigger stuff. Is there an underrated like program or a few that you were like involved in that like maybe didn't get enough credit, or you want people to like go back and rewatch?
One I was really proud of, actually, I'm blanking on the year here when I do that, but taking a lot of ref bumps. It was a SummerSlam match for the Intercontinental Championship, Edge versus Lance Storm. So we all like looked at each other before going to the ring going, you guys realize that this is SummerSlam. This is an all Canadian matchup. We said, yep, we know. Yep, this is cool. And, everybody had an extra little, what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit of adrenaline in that match. Wanting to deliver. I thought that was one of the better matches that doesn't get talked about. And I mentioned Eddie Guerrero before. Eddie and Kurt, I got to work some great matches with those two. Having fun, especially during those lie, cheat, and steal days. You can't. Some of the stuff that Eddie would come up with, you can't make it up. I mean, like, and anybody else trying it wouldn't work. Mm-hmm. But because it was Eddie, he made it work. It was great.
No, I love that. I love that. Nikki, before I ask my last, you have your
my favorite question.
This is a notorious question. You can't come on the show without answering this question. It could also, depending on the area that you're from, make you a face or a heel on the show.
Uh-oh. Okay, I'm ready, I think.
No, it's fun. I promise. So we're from New Jersey, and we have a very famous meat for breakfast, and whether you call it pork roll or Taylor ham. That's like our big debate in New Jersey. And I know everyone, that's a very local thing. So I asked, what's your favorite breakfast food? Because breakfast is my favorite thing. I can eat eggs all day, every day, and Nick thinks it's gross, but I like breakfast is my favorite. So what's your favorite breakfast food to eat?
My favorite breakfast?
Yeah.
Can I do a 1A and 1B?
Sure.
That's fair.
I think we have something similar to what you're describing with the pork roll. It is a kind of bacon that we call pea-meal bacon, which is a cured bacon, and it's not in long strips. It's more like almost like a roundish kind of shape, a little bit, and it's thicker than actual bacon, and it's good. I mean, I could have those sandwiches with egg on it. Sorry, Nick. I have to have my egg.
No.
So I like eggs.
No.
I just can't. No. See, this is what happens. This is how things start. This escalates quickly in around this household. I can eat eggs. Just I feel like after like 9:30, there's no point in eating egg. Like there's certain meals that I can't get beyond. Like people have hamburgers and they throw an egg, like a fried egg. And I still can't fathom stuff like that.
No. Mind you, I don't mind an all-day breakfast, but I don't want my all-day breakfast to mingle with my lunch. If you know what I mean? Keep the food separate. Breakfast food separate. And my 1B is my wife makes the most amazing blueberry pancakes.
Nice.
And that's kind of our Sunday morning ritual.
Oh, love that.
Oh, how could it's funny that you mentioned that because I tried to establish that routine over here a couple of years ago in our household with making pancakes on Sunday, but then I made it too much of a mess. So Nikki,
when it was just a mess in my kitchen, and then I got no pancakes out of it. So
you got like 3 really solid ones. It's after like 4 really burnt ones, but listen, practice makes perfect.
See, I didn't mean to open this can of worms. I'm sorry.
Oh, please. This is me come to our happy hour, our bar. This is normal bands.
Exactly. Well, Jimmy, can't thank you enough for coming on. Before we let you get out of here, I know you're online. Let everyone know where they can find you. I know you came out with a book recently, but let everyone where they can find you, all your socials and things of that nature.
Yeah. Obviously, the book, The 3 Count My Life in Stripes, as a WWE referee. You can find it pretty much everything, like everything else. You can find it on Amazon and you might want to check it out. It maybe not. I don't know, but I put everything into it, and who knows, maybe there's room for a second book. Also, I'm doing a lot of online stuff when it comes to radio shows and talking podcasts. I do a podcast with some other referees, former WWE referee and TNA referee Brian Hebner. Oh, sorry, I left out NWA. I know Brian will get hot if I don't mention that as well. And also current TNA lead official Daniel Spencer. We call it Reffing It Up, and we have that. We usually drops on Wednesdays every week, and then I also do a show up here in Canada called Huge Pop Radio with my buddy Donnie De Silva. We have a lot of fun. I just do what I do. Talk a lot. That's what I do now. I don't have to do anything physical. I just talk. And of course, on all my social media platforms, at Jimmy Korderas on Twitter. I still call it Twitter. I'm not going to call it that other word.
Yeah.
And at Real Jimmy Korderas on Instagram, because somebody stole my name. Unless there's another Jimmy Korderas out there that I don't know about. And I do my ref and rants from Monday to Fridays, just a minute or minute and a half long, little critique about something that gets some people riled up and some people not so much. But again, I'm having fun. People don't understand that. Even with my critiquing, I'm having fun.
Exactly. That's what it's all about. That's what we talk about here. Like
100%.
Podcasting should be just about having fun, shooting the shit, and just we and Nicole don't agree on anything wrestling related. We have a good time, and
my favorite thing to stay here, talk shit, and drink, and talk shit about wrestling.
That sounds cool. I'm cool with that. Here's the other thing I want to before I go. I wanted to mention this, and I'm not a big fan of all this us versus them that's going on online. But at the same time, saying like it all. Well, look, some stuff might not be your cup of tea. I might not watch something because it's not my cup of tea, but guess what? I don't have to crap on it. I don't have to shit on it all the time. You know what I mean?
Right.
If I'm watching, like, I try to watch as much as I can, but I want to stay married at the same time. You know what I mean? So, like, I'll catch the main shows, obviously Raw, SmackDown. I'm getting primed to watch SmackDown soon. What else? I watch Dynamite. I try to watch TNA when I can and NXT when I can, but the three main shows are Dynamite, Raw, and SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
And of course the PLEs and pay-per-views. And these people who think that you have to watch absolutely everything or you're not a fan. Look, I'm a Tennessee Titan fan. I'll watch their games. It doesn't mean I'm going to watch every Cowboy game either.
Right.
You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. I'm from Toronto. Obviously, I'm a big hockey fan. I'll watch the Leafs. I'm not going to watch every Montreal Canadian game. That's for sure. And you guys are in New Jersey, right?
And even same thing goes. I'm a Jet fan. Even
Right.
the Jet games are tough to watch as a Jet fan.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Well, who knows? I may be in New Jersey in September. You never know. At the end of September.
Hey, come by. We'll hang out.
There's a little event going down. How far are you from Parsippany?
I work in Parsippany.
Okay. There's something going on there that I might be a part of.
Is that 90s Wrestling Con?
Yes.
So we were there. They have two. So I know the gentleman Dami Fier of ISPW. So hopefully, yeah, that would be great because I'm planning on being there as well. So we're taking the show on the road to 90s Wrestling.
Oh, nice.
We can meet up in person.
Okay. It's not 100% confirmed, but it's a high probability.
Awesome. Well, yeah. Again, nothing confirmed, but yeah, hopefully we can confirm that and maybe we'll see you in person there.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, Jimmy, it's been a pleasure.
So fun.
Yeah, pleasure's mine. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thanks for coming on. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy Korderas. Nikki, making new friends. You never know who's going to show up.
Making new friends. Again, you never know who's going to show up on Happy Hour, baby.
Nice.
Oh, my God.